Ahlan biku. Don't be fooled, this isn't French ratatouille. It's actually an Iraqi casserole called Tepsi with humble beginnings in the Ottoman kitchen. Even the name Tepsi means tray in Ottoman Turkish. This tray bake is packed to the brim with delicious vegetables and juicy meat kofta, all swimming in a mind-blowing umami and tangy sauce. By cooking it slowly, you develop a deep warm flavour that is perfect for cold winter days when you're craving something homey. To create this flavourful masterpiece, there's one ingredient that needs a little special attention and is key to the tanginess of this dish. That ingredient is tamarind. Iraqi cuisine often takes advantage of the sweet and tangy rich flavours contained in tamarind to add an umami sour body to dishes. And so when making this tepsi, one ought to start with tamarind fruit. You can get this commercially in two forms, a block of tamarind pulp or a jar of concentrated paste. The block gives you a much fruitier flavour but requires extra work. So to start, take a 50-gram chunk of seedless tamarind pulp and turn this into a prepared tamarind extract. Add your pulp to a bowl and pour over 150 ml of boiling water, which will soften the pulp. Mash the pulp with the liquid to kickstart the softening, and then set it aside for about 15 to 30 minutes. Once the time is up, the tamarind will have softened. Give it another mash to break it down further, and the pulp should dissolve into the liquid. You then want to pass this through a sieve to remove any seeds or peel. Don't believe the packaging when it says it's seedless. Press the fruit through the sieve, and in the end you'll be left with pure tamarind pulp. This ingredient is capable of adding a fruity and tangy body to any sauce, and that's precisely why it's so important to this dish. Now it's time to turn that star ingredient into a sauce worthy of pouring over the stunning vegetables and kofta. Into the same jug, add 100 grams of tomato passata or blended tomatoes, and then 30 grams of tomato paste. You'll then add 1 teaspoon of white vinegar. A shortcut used by some Iraqis is to replace all the prior ingredients with ketchup, as it should taste quite similar minus the fruitiness of the tamarind. I haven't tried this method, but I see why it could work. Following that, you'll add 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of black pepper, and a quarter teaspoon of cayenne. Pour in 250 ml of water and mix it all together to combine. This fruity tomato mixture is now ready to be poured over the dish, so let's prepare an array of delicious vegetables, and then make the juiciest oven kofta known to man. You can make tepsi using any type of vegetables, don't let anyone say otherwise, but the most common ones used are aubergines, potatoes, tomatoes, onions, and green peppers. The idea is you chop the vegetables into thin slices, then arrange them in an alternating pattern. Some of the vegetables can benefit from pre-cooking, so we'll do that too. Let's get started. You'll need 1 long thin aubergine, about 500 grams, and chop it into slices about 8 to 10 mm thick. Aubergines shrink a lot as they cook, so these need to be thicker than the other vegetables. For the potatoes, you need to peel 2 to 3 large ones, or about 750 grams. Thanks to this OXO brand peeler, it's a super quick job. Link in the description if you need to get your favourite home cook a practical gift. Once the potatoes are peeled, chop them into 5 to 6 mm thick slices. You'll then do the same thing with 2 medium onions, and then 2 to 3 small green peppers and 2 to 3 plum tomatoes. You can also add some chilies for extra heat to suit your taste. And then you should have loads of beautiful vegetable slices ready for assembly. If putting the tray together feels like a lot of work, there is another simpler way to do this. You can instead chop your vegetables into cubes. A lot of Iraqis do this, and then they cook tepsi on the stove as more of a stew than a casserole. Now, pre-cooking the vegetables is totally optional. Do I recommend you do it? Hell yeah. Do you have to do it? Not really. It just improves the texture of the aubergines and reduces the time the potatoes need to cook. The way most Iraqis do this is by frying the vegetables. So fill a frying pan with about 2 cups of vegetable oil and heat over high heat. Once the oil is shimmering, add in slices of aubergine or potatoes and fry those for about 2 to 3 minutes until the first side is golden. You then flip them over, fry for about 2 to 3 minutes more, and then pull them out and drain on some paper towels. Also think frying the green peppers gives the dish a nice flavour, but if you're anything like me, you know that frying is a pain, and so instead you can roast or air fry the vegetables to get a similar effect. To do that, you just pour a good amount of olive oil over the vegetables, mix well, and spread them out over a tray. Then you pop them into a 220°C oven and let them bake for around 15 minutes. They'll come out well browned, and so you can definitely do this as an alternative to frying. And now you should have all the vegetable slices ready for assembly. All that's left is to make the incredible kofta. We're going to employ a special technique that will give us the juiciest baked kofta on earth. Here's how you do it. As with any kofta, you'll start with meat, in this case 500 grams of lamb mince. You can use any other kind of mince as long as it has about 20% fat. Now to make mincemeat into kofta, you need to add shredded onion. That adds moisture and flavour to the meat. So you need to shred a medium onion into small pieces, and you can do this with a box grater or you can pulse it in a food processor. Once it's shredded, it will be dripping with moisture. This is the onion's juices, and in most kofta recipes you need to get rid of this to stop your kofta from falling apart. We're not going to be putting this on skewers, so that's not a concern. Instead, keep all the onion juices to make the meatballs more succulent. Once you've added that, it's time for an essential special ingredient, which is 40 grams of fine breadcrumbs. These absorb the meat and onion juices during cooking and trap it into the meat, and so your kofta will end up super moist. Without the onions, the meat is basically a meatball, and without the breadcrumbs, it will dry out. And now to finish flavouring this, finely chop 15 grams of parsley leaves, the fine stalks are okay, and add those to the bowl. Then add 1 clove of minced garlic. Season with 1 teaspoon of salt and 3/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Now to knead this together. Get in there with your hands and combine all the ingredients, then knead until the mixture turns into a sticky homogeneous ball. When it looks like this, you can portion it out. You can use a scale or just do this by eye. I'd recommend aiming for around 40 grams per meatball. Once you've divided them, give each meatball a good roll in your palms to smooth it out, and then you're done prepping the kofta. If you're going to cook tepsi in a pot, you can just add them as is. Now let's bring this all together to create our masterpiece. You'll need a baking dish with fairly high walls like this, into which you'll assemble stacks of the vegetables. My one is actually a little too small for everything, so use a larger one. You'll choose a vegetable at random, then add another one, and another one, and another one until you've stacked one of each. Then you'll grab a kofta and flatten it out so it's about twice the width of a vegetable, then add this to the stack. Lay that in the tray and then repeat it all over again. Randomizing the pattern each time makes it look visually stunning. You can also assemble this directly in the tray if that's any easier. And once it's filled, take a moment to admire your handiwork. This looks so good, I can't wait until it's cooked. You can now add the special sauce we made earlier. Make sure you pour it directly on top of each slice of veg and kofta, and voila, it's ready for the oven. Put it into bake at 200 degrees Celsius for about 30 to 40 minutes. While it's baking, the sauce will start bubbling and caramelizing, giving us even more fantastic flavors. Once it's done cooking, you'll have a dish that you'll be proud to serve to your guests. You could decorate it with some chopped parsley, and then to serve, I recommend making some long grain basmati rice and dishing it up with plenty of sauce. Wow. That is incredible. Those umami and tangy flavors are perfectly balanced, and they make this sauce one of the best I've ever had. And paired with those super juicy koftas, eating this is not just a meal, it's an experience that everyone should have. If you're a fan of homey flavors, this is a must-try dish, and if you want to see more tangy Iraqi dishes, check out this other recipe too.